Welcome back to the Global Gaming Network Power Rankings. My name is Eli the Ninja, joining you once again. We've got another episode. That's right, 2 episodes of Power Rankings this week. We already got done with Call of Duty. Now we're going to jump into League of Legends. We got MSI coming up around the corner. Everyone's going to be going to Vancouver, Canada. So multiple esports tournaments happening in Canada this week and last weekend. Joined with me today is our league expert, and that's going to be Chris, aka Party Foul. How are we doing today, Chris?
I'm doing great. As you said, right around the corner, MSI. I'm really excited. Play-ins start this week. Bracket stage next week. We have a lot of action coming.
Yeah, so much action coming up. Like you said, play-ins are going to start us off. And then you're traveling up there for the following weekends for the actual bracket stage. Is that right?
Correct. Yep, I'll be getting there from the 8th to the 11th. So I'm going to watch everything except for the grand finals, unfortunately, but still get to see a lot.
Okay, that's right. He's got to come back here so he can continue working hard for us. So we appreciate that, Chris. But let's go ahead and talk about the top 5 teams that we're looking out for in MSI. We're going to start with number 5 on our list. That's going to be Billy Gaming, coming in at the number 5 spot with a score of 75 points. This team is looking really good. Obviously, they got second place at Worlds last year to T1. They're now currently second place in China as well, which is a very difficult region. The core 3, Bin, Elkin, On, have been together for about 3 years now, and they've got new teammates, but they still look very good. My question for you, Chris, though, is do you think they're going to be able to compete at the international stage the same way they have been?
I'm not too sure just now because they recently have added new jungler in May, Beichuan. They actually just recently promoted him as well to the main starting roster, and he kind of had a bit of a shaky playoffs. He was a little bit of that weak point, and so we'll have to see if he can maybe grow within these next couple of weeks, because we've seen a lot coming out of Elk and Knight. They seem to be the main dominating force from the team, both of them going, positive, and when they're on top of their game, getting 20+ kills in a series, we see them win. The issue is that right now they have a sub 50% first blood rate, and in a region where we see a lot of kills coming out and a lot of teams that are winning when they get that first blood rate, it translates to a 15-minute gold lead, which usually translates to a win. This team hasn't been able to do it, and they're going to struggle against a lot of the teams that they're going to face at Worlds, such as Genji, T1, and Anyone's Legends that they faced twice in the playoffs for the spring split. So I'm looking at this team and I'm wondering how they can convert maybe the play style that's not as aggressive as Anyone's Legends, but has a good macro style as well that they'll face against other teams going into it, because they can be aggressive. They did outslay Anyone's Legends in one of their series, but then got massively outslayed by 30 kills in their second series in the grand finals. And when they were falling behind, they really fell behind and there was no real way for them to catch back up. So I'm really looking towards Elk and Knight to use that, carry combo that they have, really carry BLG to the next level and see if they're able to get some wins at the international stage, get Beichuan that international experience he needs to see if they can make it back up to that level, because they did get second at MSI last year as well.
Okay, yeah, they've got a long history of performing well. Second place is typically where they land, even on the international stage. So I'm excited to see how they do at MSI. But that's going to be enough of BLG. We're going to go ahead and jump into the number 4 spot, and that's going to be Koi, coming out of the West. This team, I don't think anyone really had them winning the LEC at the beginning of the split. They were maybe in like 3rd, 4th position for a lot of people, but they really surprised a lot of viewers. We saw JoJo popping off. Now he's got a dub under his belt in both NA and EU, kind of carrying the flag for us in some respect, I guess. What do you see about this team? It does feel like the team is heavily reliant on JoJo, and when JoJo's slightly off, they don't quite perform as well. Who else on this team do you think needs to step up to make up for that?
So big players are Supa and Aloya. So Aloya, his shot calling is amazing. If you watch him, he's really good with kind of controlling the chaos that is JoJo in times that maybe JoJo's going off a little too off the rails. And Supa is probably just one of the best AD carries in the West right now as well. He's had a massive run through the LEC. He was MVP finalist for the LEC playoffs, and he was really able to pop off. And I think JoJo actually contributes to this as well. JoJo kind of just creates chaos wherever he goes. He did it in NA and he's doing it in EU now. So when he's able to create that chaos, it really allows Supa to shine. And then you also have the backing up force of Merwin in that top lane that can do the 1v1s. He can push the side lane when needed. And it just really allows this team to mesh together. And I think at the start of the season, with the addition of JoJo, you're bringing over a different region mid style to this play of the LEC team. And once they were kind of able to mesh together, they came in fourth in split 1, and in split 2, they just kind of popped off after their road trip. Maybe it was going to Spain, all the fans behind them, that kind of gave them the boost that they needed to move into the final part of split 2 into the playoffs, where they beat KC not once but twice, and then got the redemption arc against G2 in the grand finals, beating them 3-1. So I definitely think this team, using JoJo as Chaos, but then having the cool heads of Supa and Aloya, are just able to really shine, and I think they're going to surprise a lot of people at MSI.
Wow, yeah, I mean, honestly, the entire EU region is quite chaotic in general. You never know if Fnatic's gonna pop off or G2. This time it's Koi, but they looked consistently popping off. Like you said, beating KC twice. I mean, KC is the team that most people were looking at as probably EU's best chance to perform well on the international stage. We're not even gonna get to see them. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how Koi step up to the plate against the teams of the East as well. But let's go ahead and jump into number 3 on the list, and that's going to be T1 at 83 points. This is the team that everybody knows, of course, Faker, the legend, the unkillable Demon King. He's looking a little bit more killable right now. I mean, to be honest, they're kind of always like this though, right? They don't always perform throughout the year, but then they just show up to Worlds and win the whole thing. That's been the story the last 2 years in a row. Going into MSI, T1 probably a little bit shaky right now on the inside. You know, we don't have Zeus in the top lane. We got Doran, who's just as good in my opinion in most cases. Maybe Zeus has the edge slightly. They had a little bit of drama this year between Smash and Gumayushi. What do you think it is about T1 that has them stumbling a little bit and not on top right now in the LCK?
The big thing, like as you said, is going to be the consistency of the team. As you said, they just added Doran, which is breaking up about a 4-year team that was playing together. People may not realize they joined in 2020, and then they worked their way up to being that back-to-back champion, and then you remove one of the elements, it's definitely removing a big part. Then you put in Doran. On top of that, the LCK Cup, they decide to switch between Smash and Guma. I think you're just kind of riddling the team with who you're trying to figure out how they want to play, and that really pushed them back. So when finally they decided that they were going to put in Guma for rounds 1 and 2, they were able to start building that synergy, but still they end up losing to Nashim Red Forest at the end. You know, they kind of look bad going into the road to MSI, and then maybe it was just taking Doran to get killed by Krugs that everything snapped into place. He started playing really well. Then you started with him playing well. It kind of enabled Guma and Kyria to be that bot lane duo that we saw with Zeus, and they really started popping off. But then I also have seen, with this comfortable Doran, we've seen a comfortable Faker as well. He's been playing the Silas, the Akali, the TF, the Rise, these really engaged and aggressive champions that also allow his team to get across the map. He helps with plays, and then they've just been popping off afterwards. So the question for me now is, though, what do we see? Do we see the rounds 1 and 2 T1 that were kind of hit or miss, or do we see this T1 that we saw on road to MSI that just completely destroyed HLE? Because if we see that, we could definitely see them contesting MSI for that championship.
Yeah, I'd love to see them kind of peaking right before the tournament. Like you said, beating HLE, who were the ones that gate kept them from going to first stand. So it's cool to see them bouncing back. It's so funny to me that, you know, getting memed into oblivion when you die to Krugs is what he needed as the wake-up call to come back into it. But hopefully we don't see that happen again.
And so the one thing I did want to touch on as well that I think kind of keeps them in this first place spot for me also is that they did not get to play Gen G in the finals. So the way that LCK worked is that they had a round 3 where Gen G played HLE, automatically made it, and they didn't have a championship match. So then at the end, after their 2 wins, then T1 made it. But we don't really know how they stand versus that #1 seed from the LCK. So it's kind of hard to rank them a little bit higher because right now we only saw them play against HLE and then KT in that road to MSI.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Gen G looking incredible right now, so it's hard to compare the two. But we'll see how T1 does on the international stage next weekend. Let's go ahead and get into it. Number 2 on the list. That's going to be Anyone's Legend. So this team has been consistently on top of the LPL. Seems like ever since Flandre and Tarzan joined the team, their consistency has reached new heights even. I mean, they were already a fantastic team. This team has so much experience on it as well. I feel like they've been on these big stages, they have been in big matches, and you don't really expect them to choke or fall to the pressure. My question is, do we think that the current format and the meta of the game, we've got fearless draft system, do these current setups favor them, or do you think they're going to fall at the international stage?
I definitely think they favor them. This is a team that is aggressive no matter what. And we saw that in their game against BLG in the grand finals, they will just push forward. And this is a team that a majority of the members, 4 out of 5 of them, actually had a 70% KP, kill participation within the team, which means they go forward. They like the fight and they are exciting to watch. Tarzan, as you were talking about, ended up playing the Zed jungle in game number 4, got a quadra kill. He's finally popping off. He finally got his domestic title in China. He's been second place in China. He is a Korean player that imported over into China. He has been fighting for it for a long time, has never been able to quite get it until now. And I think this team really shines with him. Kyle, the bot lane, we see him on support. He has been great. We saw him on we see him on multiple different characters. Doesn't matter if it's tank. We saw him on Nautilus. We saw him on Rel. We've seen him on Amelia. We've seen him on Renata. And it doesn't matter what he's playing. He's still super aggressive on those. And I think this enables this team to really just know what they want to do. And they also are on the same page. There was one point in one of the games where they ended up having Baron. They could have sieged top and it would have been the correct play. No, they decided to sit between the mid tower and the top tower inhibitor in that little side mid between, the jungle, and they were just fighting because that's what they do. They go forward, and even when they get behind, they're still willing to fight, and this is their play style. But at the same time, they're still doing good on objectives. So it may not be the, most objective heavy team, but they have this play style that they want to keep. And I think that this meta that we have right now is really tailored towards them because they can pick anything regardless if it's tank or if it's more of a bruiser, and they can go forward, they can fight with it, they know how to fight with it right now. And I think because they won't have any of those taken away and they have such expansive pools together, I believe at one point I think I saw it's like 13 champions for Kyle alone, that they can play anything and they're willing to fight on anything right now. And I think they're going to surprise a lot of people and they're going to be really fun to watch at MSI.
Okay, well, I'm definitely going to keep my eye on them. I love myself a good team fight, and especially with a support that's aggressive and wants to engage and take that first step, and to have the whole team follow up on it. I love this. That's League of Legends in its most beautiful form, in my opinion. But let's go ahead and jump into number 1 on the list, and they actually come in with a perfect score of 100. This doesn't happen very often on power rankings, the way the power ranking scores work, but I think they deserve it. They're in the hardest region in the world, the LCK. Gen G are 18-0 right now so far. They had a bit of a scare against HLE. They did go down 2-0 in that series and then ultimately reverse swept it. So obviously their champion pool quite deep. In the Fearless Draft, there's only so many champions left by the time you get to that game 5 and they come out on top. They've got Chovy, who is in a lot of people's conversation as the best mid laner in the world. He's always compared to Faker. He's got the best farming of any mid laner and has for a long time. This team is so clean, Chris. Is there any weaknesses that you can identify for Gen G?
So right now, the weakness that we kind of saw them play when they play against HLE and maybe even against the likes of like KT when they had that game, was if they get behind at 15, sometimes they kind of struggle to get back into the game a little bit. Now against game 1 against HLE in grand finals, they actually did a really good job of almost making their way back. But of course, playing against someone of the caliber of HLE was able to find a little bit gaps in winning the game. But it seems like when they get a little behind ahead, it's when they struggle a little bit. But the thing is if they're ahead at 15, they have a 100% win rate. And that's between rounds 1 and 2 and the road to MSI playoffs. So this team knows how to get a lead and knows how to stay in the lead. And they definitely know how to almost come back. And if they can clean that up just a little bit, then we'll definitely see them most likely take home the MSI trophy. But looking at this team, they went 18-0 in the season. They were 36-5 in games win to games lost throughout that season. They had 4 players with the top KDA. This team is just all around good. They were consistently taking camps across the board. I believe Chovy had like 172 kills and only 68 deaths across the whole entire thing. Not to mention, the rest of the team, Ruler was like over 200 kills as well with only about 60 deaths. This team is not only an objective team, they are definitely a team fighting team as well, which I think is going to scare a lot of the teams coming in, because when you think of Korea, you almost think of macro and objective play, not really a team that's willing to go out and just kind of bang out with the likes of anyone's legends, right? this is what this Gen.G team is doing, and they're pretty crazy right now. So I'm wondering to see what would happen if they face a team like Anyone's Legends that may push back really early on and get a couple of those kills early and then kind of force them behind if they're able to match that aggressiveness. We've seen it, but can they make sure that they get wins off of it? And I think that's going to be the big deciding factor on whether or not they're able to win MSI.
Okay, well said. And yeah, I'm looking at Chovy because I feel like he hasn't had quite the breakout on the scene that we're expecting from him, right? Like, I don't know. It feels like now might be the time. Maybe he's kind of fallen enough to where he's going to really step up to the plate here on the international stage at MSI. We're all going to be glued to it and watching it here shortly. But before we get into anything else, there's a couple honorable mentions we're going to go through. First, of course, we're here in NA. We got to shout out FlyQuest, who looked pretty good against the other North American teams. We saw them go to Game 5, had that epic series against Cloud9 with the backdoor to win it. I don't think anybody was expecting it. Cloud9 definitely weren't. So I love this team though. Inspired has been incredible. I feel like his shot calling has really carried this team through. Of course, you got Whippo, who's been there, done that. And I feel like he's kind of that, I guess, quiet confidence that you need in the roster to just feel good in any situation. What do you see about FlyQuest, and how do you think they're going to do at MSI?
So they're definitely a toss-up. So we did see them struggle against C9 a bit, and we're wondering if those aggressive play styles that we're going to see out of a lot of teams such as Gen.G or Anyone's Legends could be kind of what forces FlyQuest down, because they did struggle against C9. Now, it could be a testament that C9 is actually pretty good as well, and maybe their macro decisioning is a little bit left to be desired for them to be able to take that first spot, but we can't take away from what FlyQuest has been able to do. They came back, they're able to win that Game 5 off of decision making alone. And then I think if they're able to contest and kind of stay even with teams in terms of, you know, limiting the team fights and controlling the pace of the game, the tempo of the game, then they definitely fare much better. Whippo, I do think he has much of a loud confidence about him, not really much of a quiet, because, you know, he's a very charismatic, you know, presence to the team that I think they need. But we look at last year, they did take Gen.G to 5 games at Worlds before they were knocked out. I think they can replicate that magic once again at MSI, because they may have that international buff, and they are in Canada. They are the home team this year for MSI, and myself's from Canada as well, so we're going to be surrounded by family and friends. I think they could do it, and I think they can surprise a lot of people if they're able to control the tempo of games.
Okay. Yeah, about Whippo, I mean, maybe quiet confidence was the wrong way to say it. I just remember back at the beginning of the season, he was saying, yeah, I think we're the 4th best team in NA. And I was like, is that real? Or is he just trying to like make his teammates work harder, like to not be the thoughtfully, you know, 4th best team? So I don't know. That seems so interesting. I can't wait to see if they can step up to the plate. It's been a long time since NA had a reason to celebrate, but this team might give us one. And the other honorable mention we're going to talk about is, of course, G2, the other favorite in the West, you know, coming out of Europe. MKOI definitely played spoiler to them, but Caps cannot be denied. I feel like if Caps is in the Summoner's Rift, you've got to pay attention to this guy. How do you see G2? They've had a bit of a rocky year, but do you think that maybe they're going to play a little bit better here at MSI?
I hope so. G2 is a really fun team. As you said, you always love to watch Caps play. Definitely one of the best mid laners from the West, maybe one of the best mid laners from the West ever. And I think that right now he's kind of like on or off. And when he's off, they haven't looked too good. You know, they have great carries. Hansama, they definitely have Broken Blade at the top lane, who has a massive pool. But when he's not been playing well, and we saw this in the game versus Koi in the grand finals, when he's kind of, you know, limited to only getting, you know, going even in KD, right? They seem to struggle a bit, and a little bit has to do with their decision making on whether or not they can get objectives while they're behind, or what they're able to push. And I think right now we can't really have them in that top 5 because they weren't able to beat Koi in that grand finals. I don't think they had a hard time getting to that grand finals. They faced Fnatic once, they beat then Koi to get to grand finals, but then Koi had to face KC twice. They beat KC twice, and then in the rematch ended up beating G2. G2, I think if they're able to get Caps going, if they're able to let Caps control the pace of the game, be his chaotic self that kind of brings the chaos, much like JoJo does for Koi, then he gets kills. He's able to dictate the pace, whether it be in team fights or split pushing in the side lane. then it enables Hansama and Broken Blade to do their thing. They're able to then push and then, you know, really get those wins that are needed. They have to go through plans as well right now, so that is a little scary for them because they could potentially get knocked out before even getting to the bracket. Right now, G2, I think, has a lot of proving to do, but they have that experience on the international stage, and I think that will pay dividends in the end to allow them to get to that bracket stage and make a good run.
Okay, yeah, all eyes on play-ins. That's going to be the next thing to look at. I want to say it starts on the 27th.
Right.
So on the 27th is when the the play-in bracket will start. And yeah, G2's got their work cut out for them. There's some tough teams in there. I want to say Furia, GAM, and BLG.
Right.
You know, I don't see them beating BLG, but I could definitely see them coming out ahead of Furia and GAM. So that's going to be it for the power rankings for Party Foul and myself, Eli the Ninja. We just want to say thanks for watching. We got more of these episodes on the way, covering all of your favorite esports. And until next time, we'll see you guys on the other side.